Hey everybody, welcome to My Green Pets. I'm William Green. Thanks for joining me today on this beautiful sunny Saturday morning here in Colorado. It's supposed to get a little bit cold and rainy for the rest of this long weekend here for us, so I'm sure a lot of people are disappointed with that, but we still have beautiful orchids inside to keep us entertained. So let's get to it. Let's look at what's going on in the collection today. We're going to start out over here on this side of the tent with Catleya Rex. This clone is Mayu, and Mayu has 3 beautiful buds that have pushed out. I really thought there were going to be 4. That's okay. This will be blooming very quickly. Once these are out of the sheath, it's about a week before that we start to see the first buds pop open. So I'm excited about that. This plant actually has another sheath as well. And maybe we'll get some flowers out of that one too. Right next to it is the plant that was the very largest when it came out of the flask. When I received the flask of these, this thing was already 6 inches tall. It was huge. This is Inti. Inti, you can see shadows of buds in there. Looks like 4 to me, but I'm not sure. We'll see. And then finally, if we move back to the back of the tent, we can see this plant. This plant is Unu, and Unu has just started to break out of his sheath, and he's got, looks like 3 buds as well in there. So 3 sets of Catleya Rex flowers on the way. There might be more. There's a few plants with really nice big sheaths, but we just don't know if they have buds in them yet. This plant was suffering from invincible snails. So I did the peroxide method on this one. I filled this pot up with peroxide, let the plant sit for about 5 minutes just in bubbling peroxide, and then about a week later I still saw snails crawling around on the roots. So that was interesting. I think that the snails, if they close up into their shells, it doesn't actually kill them. It causes them to dislodge, and you can wash them away, but maybe I didn't do a good job of rinsing the pot. I did do a major root trim on this plant. You can see how shriveled it is. This plant grew so well last year, had big fat bulbs, grew 2 growths, and then over the winter all the roots died. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was a fungal infection. I have no idea. But the newest growth is starting to put out roots, and I found a snail on one of the new roots a couple days ago. So I took it out of the pot, cut off all the old roots, rinsed off the plant as much as I could, try to rinse off any snails. The problem is, see that moss growing on there? I don't know if that's where the snails hide out. I tried to pick off as much as I could, but it's really growing thickly along the rhizome there. So hopefully the new roots are going to grow out and the plant will be able to rehydrate itself. And now this plant does have one obscenely long root. You can see it coming out the back here. And it's got branches all over it and it grows. I mean, it's a huge root, but it's obviously not enough to keep the plant hydrated, and I need to really make sure that those new roots get pushed out and don't get eaten off before they have a chance to grow. Some of my other Cattleyas are this one. This Catleya Gaskeliana came from Carter and Holmes back in March. It is growing some new roots. That is good. It was looking kind of scary, so we've got new root growth there. You can see them. There's one. There's another one as well, kind of growing through there. So that's good. Gaskeliana is a really nice one and has a good fragrance. Everyone says it smells really nice. So it's going to be a few years, but hopefully this one will perk back up and regrow and be healthy. Catleya Jose Marti. This thing is a beast. It is a cross between 2 pretty classic white Catleya hybrids. It has a sheath on it, but this is a first sheath for this plant, so it might not have anything in it, but I'm kind of hoping it still will try to bloom out of it. Not sure if it's even large enough yet, but it's getting close. The Catleya Rex seedlings that came from Peru Flora in Peru they seem to be adapting well, and there's a little bit of leaf, damage from the probably from being sprayed with Visan, and also from just having to adapt to the new lower humidity environment. But look what I spotted yesterday. Look at this. New root nubbins. In fact, lots of them are growing little new root nubbins. You can see at the tips of the old roots, you can see new little fat roots growing. That is a very good sign that the plants are ready to start establishing themselves. And I need to decide if I'm just gonna, I still think I'm gonna leave them in these clay pots for a year or so until they get bigger, and then I can separate them out. These Dowiana seedlings I've had for about 6 months. They came out of the flask about 6 months ago. You can see, you can see that some, probably aren't going to survive. But then others you can see are putting out nice new big growths, and you can see the base of the growth is thicker. That's a very good sign. So there's several of them that are doing this. That means the plants are getting closer to putting out their first true pseudobulb. And once they've got 1 or 2 true pseudobulbs, I think that will be the time to separate them out and put them into their own pots. So these are also Dowiana seedlings, but this is about the size that I would want them to be in their own individual pots. This is the Rosita from Rogue Orchids, and I hope they survive. They don't look great, but please, I want you to survive. What else? I divided Path Prime Child 2 weeks ago, sent a division to Brandon Tam at the Huntington Botanical Garden. They sent me a picture back last week that they had received it. It looked great. It had 6 beautiful growing root tips on it on the division that I sent them, so I was really happy about that. Hopefully they're going to pot it up, put it in their greenhouse, and grow an FCC quality plant out of that thing in the next few years. Super glad that they have it. This is the largest Path Prime Child on record, or in the AOHS, in the AOS awards book. So I thought, well, it might be worth preserving. I think Hal is suffering just from maybe dryness, because back here the fan blows and it kind of blows right in here, and I think he just dries out. But Hal is actually losing a backbulb. And I'm going to keep an eye on that and make sure it's not like real squishy. It is kind of squishy. Well, it's not bad. I mean, if it's just a dying backbulb, that's one thing. It shrivels up and it's nothing. But if it's rotting or something, then that's a problem. We'll see. Hopefully not. But you can see he's kind of wrinkly. And historically, he's had very nice, round, egg-shaped pseudobulbs. But ever since I switched the direction of the fan to kind of blowing around in this back corner, he's been a little shrivelly. So don't know if that just means I need to water him more or what. Right next to Hal, look at this. Hello, Catleya, Maxima, Cerulean. Welcome back, buddy. Isn't it gorgeous? Such delicate color. Just lovely, just lovely. Really love this one. Second one's opening. Now you can see the flower, the color is white almost until the flowers opened up, and then it finally kind of blushes just this steel blue color, which is really hard to see with the window in the background. It's in a terrible place to photograph. Maybe I'll try to pull it out here, but it's got good roots growing everywhere. I hope that this plant does not have more of a fungal infection. I took off a piece of it in January, I think it was, because I saw some really nasty stuff in there. So hopefully it is better. And of course Hal is blooming like crazy. Trying to... Usually he drops that flower after the next day, but he's not quite ready to drop that one yet. But oh, and I forgot to show you this. Look at this. Beautiful Tillandsia, just out of nowhere, starts pushing out these gorgeous flowers. It takes on this beautiful red coloration as well. Isn't that cool? Apparently these are pollinated by hummingbirds. But just so nice. You can see the yellow on the tips of the stigmas there, so I did try to kind of pollinate. Took the pollen from one flower and pollinated the other flower. I didn't use the same pollen on the same stigma, but I don't know, maybe they will work, and if not, I should still get some little pup bromeliads coming up. Little Tillandsias coming up off the sides there. There's another bromeliad in here. It's a Tillandsia recurvata, and it's very long and stringy bromeliad, but it's called ball moss, I think, and it actually comes from the trees in Stephen Van Camp and Lewis's backyard. When I was down there in Texas, I grabbed some that they had just fallen out of the trees there. I kind of like it. Kind of like those bromeliads. Okay, let's put this guy back. So yeah, that is just about it for my green pets this week. Oh, let's look at the Catasetinae. So finally, we got some progress. We got some root growth going down pretty far into the pot here. Check this out. We're getting there. I really want those roots to be almost touching the bottom before I start to water. Top growth's looking good, and the bulbs still look fine. Excuse me. This is Desert Davison. It is experimentally being grown in Synthic this year, just to see what happens. Right now, the roots look like they don't quite know what to do with it. There are roots kind of growing around, but it's such a light and fluffy material, it doesn't really offer any support. You can see this root is like, get me out of here, I don't like it. So it's kind of funny. I mean, like I said, there are roots kind of wrapping around in the Synthic, but first impressions is that they don't like how there's no real support in there. They have nothing to grab onto. But regardless, we'll see it through the season, and this new growth, we're going to let the roots grow a little bit more before we start watering, and then that new growth will take off, and I guarantee it will be enormous because all of these plants are pretty huge when they get going. This one is actually the smallest one. Cycnodes Wine Delight was divided back in January. This is the third backbulb. And check it out, little Nubbin is going to town with 3 new roots, maybe even more on the way. And that's great. I was a little bit worried about it. It did not look like it was going to grow for quite a while, but it is there. It is doing its thing. So that's great. Again, going to wait for those roots to get quite a bit longer. That bulb that it's got is actually still pretty nice and plump, so I'm not in any hurry to water this thing until those roots are nice and long. Then we can get to watering. And since I realized that these actually grow through November and December, I used to start the dormancy period like in October. Like, it would start cutting back on water, and I never really got a good blooming out of it. And the reason is because, well, it wasn't ready yet. So now I know to keep watering all the way through all the way until blooms are produced, and then I'll start cutting back on it, and that's working a lot better for me. Let's look at Catleya walkeriana here. It's still a very important plant in my collection, but we've got a new growth there. hopefully we got another one down here as well. And we're just working on getting this plant in the right rhythm. The growths are supposed to be completed by, you know, October, November, somewhere in there, and then gets a little bit of a cool rest, and then in winter it's supposed to start putting out a bloom spike. That didn't happen at all this year. The last flowers on this guy, well, I don't know. I don't know about this one. Hopefully we'll get some blooms. If not, might get rid of it. Alright. Well, just a quick look at Phalaenopsis down here. Phalaenopsaurus working on his huge spike. Still leaving him in the tent. Maybe I should think about pulling him out before it gets too late again. Problem is I don't have anywhere in my apartment to put him where he'll still get light. Phalaenopsis schilleriana. It's just kind of been... I don't know what's going on with this guy. Not good. Lovely Elizabeth divisions back here. My paths. Trying to keep them more watered. I think that I let them get a little too dry before I water. I'm so paranoid about rot. And back here, Bulbophyllum medusae putting out 2 new growths, and I got it potted in rocks this time. So I gotta soak it pretty often, but I like doing that, so it's okay. Alright, that's it for My Green Pets this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great week. Happy summer. We'll see you next time right here on My Green Pets. I'm William Green. See ya.